Ooh. Ooh. Ta-da! Hello, artist friends. In this video, I'm going to share 2 simple techniques to help you boost your coloring skills with some flair. Most people start out coloring with a flat fill that is similar to filling in the circles on a Scantron test, if those are even a thing anymore. This is a fine way to start and is useful as it is similar to the burnishing technique, which I will expand on shortly. If we want to add a bit more to our coloring pages, incorporating these 2 techniques will add more interest to our coloring. Furthermore, these techniques will work with crayons, colored pencils, paints, and even some markers or pens. Simple matte coloring is a slightly more advanced technique than flat coloring. Simple matte coloring consists of lightly coloring the entire area of an object or element on our coloring page with a single color and using darker, harder strokes at the edges to create a subtle gradient of color. Coloring in this way tends to lend a bit of softness to our coloring work while also making it a touch more visually appealing than flat coloring. This technique works particularly well for coloring softer things like cloth and skin. Simple gloss or shiny coloring is almost identical to simple matte coloring, except that we will leave a white highlight in the center of the object or element that we are coloring. We begin by coloring with a single color using dark, hard pressure along the outlines of the area we are coloring and lightening the pressure and color as we move towards the center without coloring the entire area. If needed, we can lightly sketch an outline where we want our highlight to avoid accidentally coloring into it. This technique can be used to make cloth or metal look a bit shiny and can create glow effects we might see in lightning, magic, and lights. Combining simple matte and simple gloss coloring with flat coloring can add a lot of flair to our color work. Note that these techniques work best with color sets of at least 24 colors, so that we do not have to worry about blending colors or reusing the same color a lot in our coloring page. Practicing these techniques will help to develop our skills at modulating the pressure on our coloring tools to achieve the desired coloring effect more efficiently. We can also use these techniques as a basis to begin experimenting with color mixing and blending. Did you notice how I colored portions of the background with a couple of light layers before slamming in the hard, flat coloring? This is called burnishing and is usually used when blending multiple colors. By laying down the lighter layers of color first, pigment is spread fairly evenly across the area, making the burnishing flat color a bit more uniform than it would be if we just scrubbed the pencil into the paper. Try this out with additional colors to create interesting gradients such as red, orange, and yellow, or purple, blue, and light blue. Then burnish with the lightest color of the gradient, a white pencil, or a colorless blender if you have one. Burnish from the lighter area back toward the darker colors, as burnishing from the darker colors into the lighter colors will drag flecks of the darker colors into your light area, but probably not in a nice looking way. If you found these techniques helpful, like, subscribe, and tell me how they have helped. My next video will cover a slightly more advanced technique I call basic coloring, and we will touch on the concepts of altering value and shading. You can get fantasy-related coloring pages from Fantasy Coloring Book number 1, which is currently available in my Etsy store, or by joining me on Patreon, where I am creating fantasy-themed coloring pages every month. Happy coloring!